All right, welcome everyone to another one of our shows. This is .com. My name is Master Baez. I'm a fifth degree black belt in Taekwondo and also a longtime student of personal development. And today I have with me my good friend and hypnotherapist, Justin Kuntz. Justin, are you there?
Yes, I am, Master Baez. Very nice to be here with you and everyone who is watching this program. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you guys.
Excellent. And today we have a very interesting show in regards to how to improve your self-esteem. So the question that we're answering today is your self-esteem affected by the media? So Justin, what do you think about that question? Is our self-esteem affected by what we watch, by the media, by the different areas of communications, right? Like the internet, maybe television, commercials, etc. and etc. So is our self-esteem affected by the media?
Well, I think it most definitely is. Whenever it comes down to it, whatever you're putting into your mind on a continuous basis does affect your entire mental picture of yourself, mental picture of the world. And if you're continuously watching the news, entertainment television, even cartoons now these days, you're putting a lot of not so helpful stuff right into your mind, and that's going to have an effect on how you see yourself and how you see the world.
Well, why is that? Why is it not so good to watch, I guess, well, let's talk about the news. Okay, let's start with that. Why is the news something that we don't want to watch if we want to create a healthier self-esteem?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The news itself has a presupposed atmosphere of authority and trust. If something's on the news, by default you say, yes, it must be real, it must be true, it must be the way that things are in my community or in the world. So right off the bat, the news has a very, very high level of authority over us as individuals when we watch it and we accept it, and if you accept it. And as an example on the news, there might be a news report that says, women are not respected in the workplace. And that piece of information right there, if you accept it, will enter into your mind and may, depending on if you continuously feed that, grow that belief and grow that level of knowing and confidence in your mind that women are not accepted or respected in the workplace. And then what happens is you start to enact that. You start to fulfill that in your own life.
Now we do
anything bad we don't want to have inside our minds like that.
Right. Are you still hearing me, Justin? Can you hear me? Just want to make sure our connection is good.
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Excellent. So this is something that affects then a part of us that is unconscious, right? So let's say we're watching the news, right? So there's a communication that is happening that we're not necessarily seeing, because we might say, well, I watch the news all the time and it doesn't affect me. So how do I know if I'm being affected by the news or negative media? How do I know?
Well, really, simply put, there's no way, in all honesty, if you continuously feed yourself suggestions or ideas, certain ideas, there's no way that it does not affect you. And a person may say that they are not affected by the media, but it's really hard to know. It's really hard to know what is and is not affecting you, because you are you, and you are your beliefs, okay? And you always think that your beliefs are true. So if you are accepting in a certain view of reality from negative media, what's going to happen is that you accept it as true, unfortunately, and you never really know that there's any other way to think. You never know if there's any other view that you can have on life, because you are that view. So it's kind of like a catch-22. You know what I'm saying?
So you really don't know what's having a strong influence and what's not. Well, here's another question. We're talking about negative media. Let's talk about positive media. Let's say inspirational movies or just self-help programming. How does that affect us?
Yeah, in the same exact way, but on the opposite end. Whenever you bring an idea into your mind, it's kind of like a seed, planting a seed. Now that seed is there, and for most people, we have all the different seeds that it takes to make reality inside of us. But then whenever you water it and grow it, okay, you water it and care for it, eat that seed of a positive idea, it grows in your life. And watching a positive, inspirational movie, a talk, from maybe some of your favorite self-esteem, you know, um, favorite self-esteem speakers and motivational speakers, what happens is you're watering that seed and it begins to grow in your life so that you have a greater vision, a greater being of the greatness that you want to have in your life.
So at the end, I guess what you're saying is that whatever we contemplate for a long period of time, whether it's positive media or negative media, if we contemplate it, whether even though we can identify, well, that's fake. Let's say we're constantly watching horrific movies or movies that are violent. We can, can our brain identify and say, well, that's fiction. I'm just entertaining myself with that. You know, how do we find balance? Because I like to watch horror movies or suspense movies. I also like to play sometimes video games, that might be kind of violent. Like Street Fighter or stuff like that. Fighting games. I really enjoy those. Since I'm a martial artist, I like to play those games. So does that affect my self-esteem? And many times when I'm playing some of these video games, I actually feel good about myself because I'm winning in the game. So let's talk about video games, music, before we get into our exercise. Do we have an exercise for today, by the way?
Yeah, really, really super easy exercise, which is really, it will only take about a minute, and we'll do that at the very end.
Okay.
Well, so, I mean, video games, so how you manifest these things in your life is unique to you. And who, a person who watches a horror film, that, the blood and gore may not manifest itself in that, that person goes out and kills, okay? Unless they already have kind of been growing that seed a little bit. But it may manifest in humor, okay? It may manifest, in just a certain edge of their personality. Uh, you may just begin to accept that people die, and there are horrible, horrible things in life, so you may become numb to it. So there's a lot of different things out there that a person can actually manifest, within these ideas. So it doesn't have to be necessarily like killing people. Though, for the most part, whatever you put into your mind, okay, is what you put back out, okay, in whichever channel, in whichever way that you do. So, take the video game that you play, or a couple different video games. I play video games myself, and I really like war games. Okay, I like strategy games. I like, I like war, building bases and killing people, right? I mean, that's as simple as it gets whenever you get down to it. But in my life, I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily manifest that on the level of going out there and sending an army out to take over a country. But I may manifest it in a different area, such as in my business, okay, and the way that I operate my business, okay, to see, I see my business as a military in a certain sense, and what we do is steps on a strategy, to win or to be able to conquer our goals. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So, the fighting video games that you play, Esteban, may be, may not manifest in that you go out and start beating people up on the street,
I would never do that.
right? But it may manifest another way, such as, how you identify yourself. You may, at a certain level, identify yourself with a winner, okay, or a person who's skilled, or in another way.
Right. Well, I like to see myself also as a person that can conquer a situation, right? Or a confrontational situation, and I win. You know. So yeah, you're right. I guess the video games, the type of music we listen to, the type of programming that we watch, uh, reinforces, I guess, our personality, our basic personality, and the things that we're attracted to. So you're right. I think it really does reveal. I think then that the media reveals, and the type of media that we focus on constantly, type of music we listen to constantly, reveals a certain part of our character. So how can we use, this is the last question, how can we use media to our advantage? So how can we use it so that we can build a stronger self-esteem?
Excellent question. I'll just tell you that a story or a metaphor, very much like you were just saying about a movie or a speaker, a story can really affect us on a deep level. Because whenever you hear a story of a person who's achieved greatness, who've achieved great things, you kind of take that part of that personality of that person or that mechanism that's made something so great, and you begin to associate with that. You kind of, for you to be able to understand someone's story, for a moment, you kind of have to become that person or go into that situation and go through the experience yourself. So by very positive stories, very positive movies, reading biographies of great people, leaders in the community, what you're able to do is bring into yourself on a very deep subconscious level that part, maybe one of those seeds that's inside them, bring that into yourself and begin to grow that and grow your experience of being that person and being great and confident.
Excellent. So the way we can use it is basically is every time that we watch or contemplate media, whatever it is that we're doing, reading a book, listening to music, watching television, programming, etc. We just need to know that if we're, for example, there's a lot of music. I have children. I have 4 children, and there's a lot of music that I know is storytelling, right? I know there's telling a story in the music, but they use a lot of negative words, or it's a story that was negative. There's this song out there called, the Black Widow, right? And children, they love music, and whatever has a catchy beat, they're gonna listen to it. But sometimes I wonder, is that gonna influence my child's character and my child's personality? Even though I know it's just a story, but the Black Widow song is one that's out there now, and then Nicki Minaj has another one with the Anaconda song, and I know, I'm like, oh my goodness, I know the meaning of the song, but I know the children don't understand half of the thing they're singing. They don't know what they're singing, and it really concerns me sometimes. But sometimes I just say, well, it's just a story. Let them enjoy it. What's your take on that? And then we'll go to the exercise.
Well, you got little Johnny, right? And little Johnny hears his uncle say the F word, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he may not necessarily understand it, but he knows that there's like something there, right? And so then he goes to school and he says the F word to his teacher. and then he begins to learn about it and all that. What happens is, especially when you're young, just by getting that initial influence of these things, your mind is really like a sponge. It really, really is like a sponge, and it is forming that basis of your personality that you begin to grow and lean towards when you get older. So, especially children, if and when I have children with my wife, we do not plan on taking the child. We're going to homeschool the child up until high school. It may sound wild, but there's so many negative influences out there, and people who themselves have a lot of problems, and they'll put it, onto other people. The media is included. The songs and those stories are written by people. They may even have certain intentions of knowing what happens whenever people listen to that music. Uh, and so you, especially with children, you really need to filter what goes into their mind because they don't have a filter themselves. But you yourself, or as they grow older, one of the key things is just by continuously putting positive things into your mind, positive stories, positive music. You it's like a scale, and you tip the scale one way and you tip the scale another way. And if you continuously put negative stuff in your mind, it's going to tip the scale negatively. More positive stuff into your mind is going to tip it positively.
I love that example, and I think that's the most practical answer is to try to find balance, and especially when educating your children or whatever you're feeding yourself. If you know you're constantly watching horror movies over and over and over and over again, that's going to have an effect. You might not sleep well at night. You might have a nightmare. Those sort of things happen. So you have to balance it. Okay, that's too much horror movies now. It's time to put some positive stuff into my mind. I'm going to watch some inspirational films now on my time off, or I'm going to read some fiction that has some a good message in it. So I think that's how we can build our self-esteem. Is we really have to treat our mind like a garden, like you said, Justin, kind of like a garden, and then put the seeds through the stories, through the music, through the programming that we watch. We want to constantly be putting some good seeds so that our self-esteem can be reinforced through the media that we're watching. I think that's great. So, what do you have for us today, Justin?
So the mental technique that we're going to do is very, very simple. It's actually something that you can do after this video, after you're done watching this. And that is to simply take a piece of paper and make a list, make a T, okay, so you have two columns. The first column is positive, and the second column is negative. In the positive column, make a list of all the different things all different media that positively feeds your mind and your self-esteem. Likewise, on the negative side, you make a list of all the negative things that you might be watching. The news, certain artists, types of movies, just any of that stuff. And what's going to happen is, you're going to begin to make a distinct, you're going to be able to distinguish between these two different things. Because a lot of times, we just see everything that we do as just one kind of big clump. But when you begin to separate these things, you're going to start to gain a deeper understanding of yourself and what's making you you. And one last, and this you can do on your own time. One last thing that you brought up that I thought was really good, and a good way of looking at this, is you said that you're feeding your mind. And it's just like feeding your body in the exact same way. Now, if you go down to Burger King and you get a Whopper and you eat that Whopper is not going to make you fat. Okay? It's not going to affect your blood pressure. You ate a Whopper every single meal, that's going to give you an effect. And then, in a year, after you put a continuous amount of junk food or bad media into your body, what's going to happen is you're going to have those effects that are going to radically change your mind. They're going to change your mind and your body. Same way if you went vegetarian, which might be totally cutting out all the stuff in the bad column and just focusing on what's on the good column. If you went vegetarian and only ate raw organic greens your entire life, you would gain more clarity, you'd lose weight, your blood pressure would normalize, and all of a sudden, a year from now, you would be a totally different person than you were a year ago.
It's true. It's true. You can kind of tell what people's rituals are by looking at their bodies. It's really true. You can tell that I enjoy just by looking at me that obviously right now in my life I'm not exercising as much as I used to in the past, and I do enjoy eating more than what I used to in the past. And I like to eat a lot of the good food. But I think the key, like you said, is to have that scale in mind and to find a balance. We're not promoting that you only go to one extreme. What we want you to find is balance in your life and to support. If you're really experiencing a low self-esteem right now in your life, you really want to cut out all negative media, obviously. If you're feeling horrible about yourself, negative media like the news and things like that, they're just going to reinforce how bad the world is and how bad you're feeling. So you want to try to start looking at things that are going to encourage your self-esteem. Try looking for stories of people that are feeling good. How are they feeling better? How are they improving their lives? And those stories, that type of media, through movies, through biographies, like Justin said, through positive music, you can start automatically feeling good about yourselves. And I think that's the key. I think we should use media instead of letting the media bombard us and telling us how we need to feel and what we need to be watching. And I think we have that ability nowadays with the internet. Cable is becoming obsolete, and people are really deciding what they're going to be watching. With the coming of Netflix, that's really all I watch is Netflix now. I barely watch cable, and it's interesting. I think we should empower ourselves and decide this is the type of programming I want to put into my life. And every once in a while, I watch something entertaining, something that's fictional, and something that might be the other extreme. Because I think we need to find balance. If you're only watching positive programming, eventually you want to also be grounded with reality too. Well, there's also some experiences in life that are not so positive, but how would we handle those? Well, I think if you have a lot of positive programming in your mind, when you go through something negative, you can handle it more effectively because you have a lot of positivity in you. So when you have a lot of negativity in you and you go through a negative experience, you really can't attack the effects of that with positivity because there's nothing in you. So anyway, that's my intake on media. Thank you, Justin, so much for the exercise. And thank you, everyone, for watching the show today. Justin, do you have any final words?
Be sure to check out reprogramyourself.com. I'm sure you're going to say that, Esteban. And lots of different videos there. This is probably our 15th or 16th video on self-esteem. So there's so much value there for you to be able to jump in and begin to improve your self-esteem or help others improve theirs.
Excellent. So that's reprogramyourself.com, and look out for our live event coming up next year. All right, we're going to put all that information on the website, so make sure you register and make sure that you take advantage of the offer that we have on our page. Go to reprogramyourself.com, and thank you again for watching the show today. Have a wonderful day, everybody.